So, Midnight Special is directed and written by Jeff Nichols, who wrote and directed Mud and Take Shelter, and it stars Joel Edgerton, Michael Shannon, um, who else is in this? Adam Driver and Sam Shepard. Let's get into it. This is the kind of movie that sticks with you. I just saw it with Ryan and my dad, and honestly, you guys, one of the best movies I have seen all year. Now, I don't want to be a dick and say that this movie has flaws, but it does have some flaws, and I haven't been seeing people like review this movie, and so I want to know why. Like, I mean, the cast was great, the acting was terrific, and it's a really known director, but I think it's because that it's like an independent film that not a lot of people have been reviewing it. So I don't know if that's it or they just haven't had time to see it. So I decided why not do a review on it because this is one of my favorite movies of all year for 2016. And I gotta say, Jeff Nichols might just start becoming one of my favorite directors. He's not my favorite or one of my favorite yet, but might start becoming to be one of my favorite directors. So you guys, let's start getting into the storyline and not just the director of the movie and writer of the movie. Let's talk about the pros. I'm not going to give away anything in this movie. I'm just going to talk about some of the storyline and things like that. So for the pros, there are a lot of pros in this movie as much as there are some cons in this movie. So it kind of equals itself out. But again, you got to listen to both sides of the argument because some people may think differently about this movie, and some others may like it more than they hate it, or hate it more than they like it. So the things I really loved about this movie was the opening. The opening sets up everything that you're about to see about this boy, about this character, with the powers and how it makes his family connected to the entire world and a universal biblical event. And it's not really biblical in a biblical sense, even though it is biblical. Now, that probably made no sense, but once you see the movie, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Because I'm going to get into the storyline and specifics here in just a brief moment. But to talk about the pros that I liked about this movie and that Ryan and I both agree on, well, I'll talk about the cons that we both agree on, and then I think we agree on some things for the pros. But for some of the pros, guys, this is a movie that you will think about it like the next week. And so that's going to be me until Hardcore Henry comes out, because that comes out next Friday. But I'm going to be thinking about Midnight Special Monday through Thursday until Friday when that movie comes out. And then when that movie comes out, my mind's going to be completely off Midnight Special because it had that much of an effect on me and the characters and the tension buildup and things like that. And it makes you think about it because it doesn't answer all of your questions, and it's one of those sci-fi thriller movies that you just want to know everything about, and you want there to be a sequel even though it's good as a standalone movie. And so that's where I'm at right now with this movie as of now. To talk about the pros though, guys, the storyline was good. It was a little choppy here and there, some transitions and things like that between character development because there was none, not really. And I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place here, but if you listen to me, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So the acting was great, the writing was good, and the soundtrack was amazing. Oh my gosh, that's sorry, I don't know what happened with my hair there, but the soundtrack made you feel for the characters more than the characters made you feel for them. And that's what I loved about this movie. The soundtrack was so real and like you just wanted to believe everything that was going on in this movie. This movie did a great job of not using too much CGI. I will give it that. That's another pro I liked about this movie. It didn't turn into a Zack Snyder or Jesus Christ, did I just say Zack Snyder Avenger film? I mean Zack Snyder DC comic movie and things like that. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And I didn't feel like I was watching Batman v Superman. I felt like I was watching a Jeff Nichols movie, and that was Midnight Special. I felt like they used CGI mostly towards the end, but it worked. It worked with the storyline and things like that. And so I feel like they did a great job on using the CGI because this was a low budget film. And since it was an independent film, I feel like they went the right route. I feel like if it would have been like an over budget movie, it wouldn't have been as good. So I'm glad they just stuck with the low budget, independent. This is going to be our story. We're going to tell it, idea, concept, and that's what they went with. And So I gotta say that was awesome. The beginning's cool. I think I mentioned that earlier, but I'm gonna mention it again. I can't really think of anything else. I don't know. Maybe it'll come back to me. But let me start talking about the cons. So there were a few cons to this movie. Okay. Also, and I really loved the ending of the movie. It ties in perfectly with everything that happened and the events leading after the main thing that happens in this movie. And I'm not going to tell you guys anything. I don't want to spoil this movie because I think it's one of the best movies of 2016. And I want you guys to experience it without me as a reviewer to spoil it for you, because it won't be the same, and then when you go see the movie, you won't think it was good as I thought it was. But to talk about the cons, you guys, there were some problems with this movie, and starting off would be the character development. And I know in a movie like this, as I said during this review, the storyline didn't need character development, but it would have been nice to have character development, because they do set up a few things, but you have to kind of infer it and imagine what happened. And although that's fine, I didn't hate that about the movie, because it wasn't about the backstory. It was about what's happening now and what's going to happen in the future of this family. So I was fine with that. But the backstory, they could have added a little bit more. But then again, it would have been a 2-hour movie instead of an hour, 50-minute movie, even though it's close to the 2-hour mark. So that's kind of an edgy topic, but, and you just got to put it out there for this type of movie. Second, I would say there are some characters that are just randomly thrown in there. They don't do it in a way to where it's absurd or just abrupt, but they do it in a way where you know their motive and you know why they're doing it. You just don't like them, or they're just there for exposition and plot. And so I feel like that was kind of a mix-up, jumble thing that they had to just put in the script and just get it in there to make the time mark not over 2 hours. So I feel like that's another thing consisting with the backstory and things like that. So they just kind of threw in characters here and there. Also, you guys, what else was bad? Honestly, I can't really think of anything. Those were my only complaints, and the writing could have been a little bit better. But then again, that ties in with everything else that I've said. And also, I do think the way this movie was directed was really good. I do like that a lot. And Jeff Nichols usually writes and directs most of his movies, and I like that about him. And most directors don't really do that these days. They don't write it, they just direct it. Although some do, and I like Jeff Nichols' style for his movies that he's been doing. I loved Mud, I love Midnight Special. I still haven't seen Take Shelter, but I need to after seeing Michael Shannon's performance in Midnight Special. So I think I'm going to go check that out, because that also got really good reviews. But to say, guys, all in all, I do think if I were to compare Mud and Midnight Special, I do like Midnight Special a bit more, just because of the simplicity and how complex it is. And when I say that, it's a simple storyline, but they make it complex, but to where it's still understandable, and you're not like it's a mind fuck. You know what I mean? So it's not the most confusing movie, but it's just straight up. This is what's happening. This is what's going to happen. And you'll love it. You'll either love it or you'll hate it. A lot of people complain that this movie was too slow. Jeff Nichols does make slow movies, but I didn't think this was slow because I was interested in it. It hooked me from the very beginning. Right when it said Midnight Special up on the screen, I was hooked. I wanted to see what was happening to this family, to this boy, how he got his powers, what were the powers there for. I really love seeing how this family developed and things like that. So I will say storytelling and directing were awesome, besides the few flaws that I mentioned in the cons that Ryan and I both agreed on. So all in all, you guys, I will give this movie a good. I was going to give it an awesome, but then once I heard Ryan's point of view, I did agree with him a lot more, and so I'm going to give it a good. And I feel like that's fair for this type of movie and what it was. Honestly, guys, I highly recommend you go check this out at least once, and then this is a film you'll like as you continue watching it over and over again. So I do say buy this on Blu-ray after watching it. If you hate it, sorry, but I loved it a lot, even though it did have some flaws, but it's going to have flaws in every movie. But you know what, guys? I highly recommend it, and you should see it. So, this is my review. I'm Nick, and thank you guys for watching. This is The Tempest Productions, and I'll see you guys in the next video.